I'll go ahead. So what's the rationale of using an Octa in diabetic retinopathy? As we know that diabetic retinopathy is a slowly progressive disease. It has got a long subclinical course, so it tend to develop clinical signs very late. So early changes are very subtle. So imaging carries a very relevance in these diabetic patients to pick up the lesions. So sometimes the clinical examination alone underestimates the diabetic retinopathy severity. And studies have shown that almost 40% of the patients with diabetic retinopathy will tend to have some form of macular ischemia. So that ischemic changes should be picked up by these imaging modalities. So what are the advantages of Octa in diabetic retinopathy? Basically, it identifies the diabetic retinopathy in its earliest stage, that is a subclinical retinopathy, and it is a non-invasive imaging modality. The imaging time is quick. FFA looks at only the superficial capillary plexus, but the Octa looks at even the deep capillary plexus also. You can know the exact depth of the lesions like microaneurysms. That provides the detailed information of the capillaries without leakage. So whenever there is a leakage, the clarity of the lesions will be lost. So that is an advantage with Octa. With our recent ultra wide field imaging images, you can go up to the near periphery, if not the far periphery, for the imaging with Octa as shown in this picture. So most of the microvascular changes of diabetic retinopathy can be picked up on Octa, except the microaneurysms, which I'll be telling about the limitations of microaneurysm imaging. You can pick up the vascular loops, the non-perfusion areas as shown here, the FAZ erosion, the venous beading, and the multiple capillary beds. All these things can be imaged with the Octa. So, basically, we tend to look at our FAZ, the FAZ enlargement, which basically predicts the progression of diabetic retinopathy. Capillary abnormalities like non-perfusion, earmarks can be seen. Neovascularization can be picked up. You can quantify the vascular changes basically in the FAZ, the perfusion density, vascular density, avascular area, all these things can be seen. But one important thing to be noted is the changes are noted, more distorted changes of all these pathological changes are more noted in the deep capillary plexus than in the superficial capillary plexus. Rupak Kanti Biswas spoke about the OCT biomarkers. Let's look at some of the Octa biomarkers in diabetic retinopathy. The important one is the foveal avascular zone area, the contour irregularity, the average vascular vessel caliber, the vascular vessel tortuosity, as well as the vessel density. So these can be looked at as a biomarkers for the detecting the progression of the disease. Regarding the FAZ measurements, one tend to look at the area of the foveal avascular zone. Acircularity index can be noted. The perimeter, the overall diameter of the FAZ can be noted. And when you look at the vessel density in the perifoveal as well as parafoveal area, we should look at the 300 micron from the within the center of the foveal avascular zone. But when you look at the FAZ measurement, it has got its own limitations. Like FAZ is variable in normals. Normative data varies from studies to studies. FAZ may be absent in some of the diabetics. The another thing is segmentation slabs of superficial capillary plexus sometimes includes a part of the deep capillary plexus, especially in the foveal region. The deep capillary plexus segmentation boundaries are not uniform in different things. The manufacturer recommend default settling likely to differ from one to machine to the other machine. So these are some of the limitations of FAZ measurements by Octa. So what does the FAZ enlargement indicates? Basically, it indicates macular ischemia. Sometimes it indirectly indicates the peripheral ischemia also. The changes sometimes can be seen in diabetic patients even without the retinopathy. The FAZ changes correlates with the diabetic retinopathy severity as well as visual acuity changes. FAZ enlargement seen in both superficial capillary plexus as well as deep capillary plexus. The mean horizontal FAZ diameter and FAZ area significantly seen in the diabetic retinopathy patients compared to the healthy controls. Octa is a better predictor of FAZ changes than fluorescein angiography. When you look at the vessel density changes, especially in the perifoveal and parafoveal areas in the deep capillary plexus, this is a normal patient, this is a PDR patient. In an Octa NFAS images, you can see that they tend to decrease the vessel density with that in turn indicates the severity of diabetic retinopathy. With using an Octa, you can do a change analysis also from one examination to another examination. If you look at you can look at the foveal avascular zone changes as well as the vessel density changes, so that it helps you to follow up the patient over a period of time to know the severity of diabetic retinopathy. Coming on to each lesion, coming on to the microaneurysms, you can know the exact depth of the microaneurysm, whether it is superficial or deep. Not all microaneurysms are seen on Octa because of the sluggish flow in these microaneurysms. as well as hyporeflectivity. So thus Octa is slightly inferior to FA in detecting the microaneurysm. You can clearly see here the FFA well delineated microaneurysm seen, not so well seen in Octa. These circled things indicates the microaneurysms. You can detect the more number of microaneurysms on fundus fluorescein angiography when compared to the Octa. The next structural change is the interretinal microvascular anomalies. These are, if you look at this arrow indicates the IRMA. The caliber of these vessel loops are greater than that of the surrounding normal capillaries. That it helps you to differentiate the IRMA from the normal capillaries. So what is the role of Octa in diabetic macular edema? Basically, sometimes there are certain limitations can be there in imaging of Octa and DME, like segmentation artifacts can be induced by the fluid accumulation in the retina. The superficial capillary plexus parameters in DME are more reliable when compared to the deep capillary plexus. There could be an alteration of foveal avascular zone profile noted in the deep capillary plexus. Sometimes the more microaneurysms and increased foveal avascular zone area in the deep capillary plexus indicates the poor response to anti-VEGF therapy. So you can tell the patients before treatment that which are the good responders and which are the poor responders. Coming on to the next structural change, that is the distorted retinal inner layers. That's a drill. You tend to see a larger FSZ areas in eyes with the drill when compared to those who doesn't have a drill. Areas of non-perfusion and Octa corresponds to the area of the drill. So the Octa can correlate, has got a very good correlation with the distorted inner retinal layers. The next thing is capillary non-perfusion. Octa is definitely picks up better capillary non-perfusion areas than FFA because of the lack of leakage. The correlation of capillary non-perfusion definitely correlates with the severity of diabetic retinopathy. Next entity is a neovascularization. All epiretinal neovascularization can be seen in Octa. The absence of leakage, as you've seen here, this is a neovascularization. There is extensive leakage on fluorescein angiography, but not much leakage. So you can see clearly the network of neovascularization on Octa. So the absence of leakage precisely delineates this neovascular network much better. The segmentation at the vitreoretinal interface, if you can do it properly, can significantly improve the visualization of neovascularization. Neovascular changes before and after treatment can be planned with Octa. Sometimes extreme peripheral neovascularization can be missed on Octa, so FFA may be still needed in some of the cases. What to look for in neovascularization? You see a neovascular network, basically look at whether the neovascular network is active or inactive. Look at the greatest linear dimension of the vascular network. Look at the caliber of the vessels in the neovascularization. Look at the vessel density, flow density, perfusion density, and the flow area in the neovascularization. All these things can be graded pre and post treatment so that it gives you an indication of better follow-up in these patients. So how to know whether the neovascularization is active or inactive? The one thing we should look for in an active neovascularization is something called as exuberant vascular proliferation, or also known as EVP. As shown in this picture, the circled area indicates the presence of an EVP, that is nothing but an irregular proliferation of fine vessels. If it is present, it indicates an active neovascularization. In an inactive neovascularization, as shown in the below picture, new vessels are pruned vascular loops with the filamentous vessels, but there won't be any exuberant vascular proliferations. Even in fact, you can quantify the flow area in the NVE and NVD before and after, seen in these patients before laser treatment and after laser treatment. So you can follow up the patients very easily pre and post treatment. Easy to follow up, since it's a non-invasive thing. Most of the patients like PDR and other patients, we can detect the vascular changes even without injecting in contrast dye. So by a non-invasive method, you can easily follow up these patients. So what are the limitations of the Octa? It's an evolving technology. Dynamic information like leakage is absent, so it is an advantage. Sometimes better to appreciate the capillary changes. It has got a poor axial resolution. Image acquisition area is small, so that sometimes FFA may be required for peripheral imaging. Suboptimal correction of artifacts. There is one main concern with the presence of artifacts. Difficult to develop repeatable automated segmentations. The level of lesions sometimes can be missed. May not differentiate pathological vessels from the normal vessels. Can miss areas with relatively slow blood flow like microaneurysms. So in conclusion, Octa can detect the diabetic retinopathy in the subclinical stage itself, and it does not substitute fluorescein angiography. And one limitation is extreme peripheral retina sometimes may not be visualized with Octa. There is a lack of leakage, so vascular network can be better appreciated. It complements the other imaging modalities. So you need other imaging modalities to come to a diagnosis. You have to combine all the methods. We are still in the learning on how to use this Octa effectively in many therapeutic decisions to come to a certain conclusion. Thank you for your patient hearing. Thank you.